I will tell you that I believe that this governor really understands what makes businesses work, and businesses are the foundation of any local, frankly, community. It shouldn't come as a big surprise to any of us, because when we look at his background as a business leader, be it as CEO, chairman of Gateway, a global, very successful computer manufacturer, or as an investor himself in different startup companies, tens of them, it is clear that he does understand what makes businesses successful.
Now, it's not often I get my day made in terms of something that I'll remember for quite a while in a fun way, so early in the morning. But when I was walking in this morning, there's these wonderful flyers that most of us have, right? And I thought that was great. And they've gotten very creative, very photogenic. So I walked in, and I want to thank one of the high school students. I was walking by, and he goes, "Are you the dude right here?" I said, "Yes, I am." So that was a great way to start the day. What I want to do now, though, is really give you an update on Michigan. And not just in terms of numbers and facts, but more the spirit. The spirit of what we need to do, what we've gotten done, where we're going, and what we need to accomplish. Because the opportunities are great. And that's why it's so exciting to have all the young people here, all the students here. Because if you step back and look at it, if you go back to 2009, we had the highest unemployment in the country. Our personal income, we dropped to number 40 of the 50 states. Homes weren't being sold. When 2010 came, we were the only state in the nation that lost population. We went backward. So this was not a good place in terms of the state. We were a broken state. So it was time to get our act together. And as I like to describe it, it wasn't about fixing Michigan, it was about reinventing Michigan. Fundamental reinvention. Of saying, we are a great state, but we need to get our act together. We need a vision, a focus, a future to go after. But the point is, it's not about doing actions. Actions don't mean anything until you achieve results. And so the point is we are achieving results. We're the comeback state in the United States today, compared to 2009, 2010. We've seen our unemployment rate come down by almost 5 percentage points in terms of what's going on. That's huge. We've created almost 200,000 private sector jobs. Personal incomes are growing faster than the national average. Homes are being sold again. Home prices are up. Our population is growing again. Just this last year, recently, as announced, we're number 4 in business expansions of the 50 states. You just saw a great report this week. Grand Rapids was number 4 in the country for a place to get jobs. A lot of good things are going on. But what I'll tell you is we should not be complacent nor content with what we've achieved. There's a lot more work to be done. And so in terms of the spirit of doing these things, I think it's important to present a philosophy of how we're doing this. And so I want to share 3 principles with you. And then I have a couple asks of you. The first principle, and it's a question that I hope our young people ask, and I hope they get asked in school this question, because we don't talk about it enough, is why does government exist? When was the last time someone raised that question? And that question hit me in the face when I became your governor. Because you know what happened? After I became governor, I'd go in my office and people would want to come meet with the new governor, right? And the funny part is, people are actually pretty nice when there's a new governor and they want to meet with you. So I'd have a meeting and they'd come in and say, "Hi, Governor, how are you? This is great, you're governor." You know what the next words out of their mouth typically were? "We need money," or "we want money." It wasn't about what the money's for. It was about we need money, we want money. Now, I'm a very positive guy, a very pleasant guy, so I never said what really went through my head. Is quite often I sit there and say, what do I look like, an ATM machine? Because it was clear the role of government had gotten lost. It's not about taking and spending money. The role of government is really simple. We're a customer service organization. And the simple part is you're the customer. And we exist to give you great customer service. And to make you feel good that you've bought the right amount of government. I know you don't feel that way when you get your tax bill, but ultimately that's the question. We provide some unique things, education, public safety. And so that was exciting. I appreciate, Rock, your comments, because our goal is to say, do you feel like a satisfied customer? should be our objective, delivering results. So that's an important and critical thing that we should talk about more. And that's why we have all these dashboards to measure, are we giving you good customer service? Now, the second principle is a philosophy of how we do things. And it's a philosophy I call relentless positive action. And what it means is, we don't blame anyone for anything. So for all these problems I talked about, hopefully you've never heard me or never heard our administration say someone's to blame for that. And why is that? Have you ever seen blaming anyone solve a problem? It doesn't. It has no value. The second thing is we don't care about credit. We care about results. Because credit doesn't matter if you don't get results. And then the focus is on solving problems using common sense. Here's a problem. Even if you disagree with people in many different ways, when you have a common problem, you can get an 80% solution most of the time by just using common sense. And the point is, don't try for perfection, just solve that. By solving that, you move things forward a lot. And it's a lot easier to come back and solve the next piece. And you're relentless in solving one problem after another. And it works. And the contrast I'd give you is, in one of the greatest challenges we have, look at Washington. Washington has not gotten this memo yet. Because think, what would Washington be like if they would simply agree, no blame or no credit? One, the media wouldn't have anything to cover. But secondly, they would get a lot done. They would solve the problem. And we're a role model for following this philosophy. So I encourage you to pass it on. The third principle is about dog years. Now this one takes a little explanation. Now what is dog years all about? That's how they operate in state government. And the reason I say that is, when you hired me to be governor, we had massive problems to deal with. We were broken. So the way I define it is we had 4 years worth of work to do in the first 6 months. But 6 months isn't going to be long enough. It takes years to come back from 50 years of neglect in some fashion. So the way I did it is the best analogy I came up with was 7 to 1, dog years. Close to 4 months, 4 years to 6 months. So we work in dog years. And what that means is there's an urgency to treat the world still as in crisis, because we still are in crisis. This is not something we should assume we're just going to come back. This is about working hard to say, if anything, we should be going faster now than we even went before. And it's one of those things to focus on. So those three principles, customer service, relentless positive action, and dog years, is how we're operating to serve you, our customer. And it's working. But we have much more to do. And a couple of things I'll share with you in terms of asking you a couple of things to think about, because our future is bright. And for any Michigander out there still lying back to the good old days, or what they call the good old days, I don't think any of us want to go back to 2009. Our brightest days are ahead of us in our future. And they're exciting days. And that's why I'm excited to have all these young people here, because that's who we're doing it for, in addition to ourselves. Because we want them to stay here. We want them to raise their kids here. And one of the things we can do, I have two things for you. One is that first thing that you're already doing. And I mentioned the Economic Development Summit that I had, the Education Summit. And the point is we need to do a better job with our talent in our state, our most precious asset, which are all of you, and particularly the young people, though. We're not doing everything possible we can to help make sure that as people get an education, they understand their career opportunities. And we match up the supply of jobs with the demand for jobs. And we can do much more. And again, this is not about the government doing all this. This is us being a facilitator. It's really asking the business community to do even more. You're doing it by sponsoring these young people today. But the part I ask you to think about, what more could we do working with the educational institutions to say, hey, there's an opportunity for them to come visit our business, to come have a tour. And I'm talking about all ages, everything from elementary to middle school to high school. There's an opportunity, the educational institutions will invite you in to come talk about your business, to bring your product or your service and explain it to people, to do some job shadowing, to have a young person follow you around for the day. I mean, it's great what you're doing with the media here. you're doing that. But to do it on a much larger scale. Because it's a great opportunity. Because most people don't have a clear idea of where the future is going and how challenging it is. And that's why I think Rock's comment about Egypt was fabulous. To say what's going on in Egypt affects people working here. Just yesterday I was excited. I went to Gingrish's dairy farm. James Fuller Adams and I and some of the representatives and senator were with me, and we went out to this dairy farm. And if you had an idea of working on a dairy farm to say, you've got the old stool and you're sitting underneath this cow, milking a cow, you're crazy. It was done by robotics. And you needed to know how to run a computer, you needed software skills, you needed all these understanding skills, and the productivity, the possibilities were huge for the future of this. So a farmer today is a high-tech person. They're a high-tech person, they're an entrepreneur, they're a business person, and they're building on the traditional foundation of farming. We should be so proud of our ag community and our farmers. They don't get enough credit. So I want to give a shout out to anyone in the ag industry. What you're doing is fabulous. But that leads me to the other thing I need to ask. In addition to asking the business community to work much more closely with the education community and our students, the next thing I need to ask is, we're Michiganders. We're fabulous. We got a great state, but we got a problem. And the problem is us. And what do I mean by that? Well, one of the things that's a great Midwestern attribute is we tend to be fairly humble. So we don't like to talk about a lot of good things we do. And to be blunt, that's not helping us today. There's a difference between being arrogant and bragging and being proud and loud. And what we need to do is speak up more. Because if you go around this room, and I went around I know a lot of the companies here, the wonderful work you're doing. You've got some cool companies that are really at the cutting edge doing exciting things. If I talk to the educational institutions, there's a lot of great teachers doing great work, doing wonderful things. I mean, last year I had a chance to go to the Career Tech Center. It was fabulous. I've been bragging about the welding program in this area for the last year. But the point is just me talking about it is not the answer. What we need to create is a program where every single person here views yourself as an ambassador. You're an ambassador for your organization, you're an ambassador for your community, and you're an ambassador for Michigan. And as you go around the country, how many people have heard someone sort of badmouth Michigan or Detroit or some part of our state when you travel? How many people have heard that when you're out on the road? Most of us. And what do you normally do when that came up? What did you do? Quite often I bet most of us just sort of sucked it up and just listened and moved on. Did that do us any good? No. So in terms of being an ambassador, what we need to do is, quite often, we want to always be honest about it, to say, hey, you brought up a point. We had a real problem with the thing you're talking about. But do you realize that we've improved, or that's no longer an issue? Or if it's still an issue, did you know this other thing is going great? There's absolutely wonderful things going on. And I'll give you one illustration. The tough part is Cadillac's doing well, so you're in a great place. I'll give you a Detroit illustration, though, because quite often we've all heard that one. Is when people say, well, you've got an emergency mayor, or the city's a mess. Yeah, but you can turn it around and say, hey, did you know 95% occupancy in downtown, midtown Detroit because young people want to live in the city of Detroit? You're going to stop them dead cold in their tracks. And that's the kind of attitude. So this is an opportunity to help one another, to have that vision together, to have that excitement together, to say we can do this together. And how much did it cost you or take out of your life to do that? Nothing. It took a few extra seconds to say, I have an opportunity to let people know why I love living in Cadillac, or I love living in this area, or I love living in Michigan. And I think all of us are proud of that. And so let's share that. So there's a second thing on the list. The last thing I'll leave you with is we are the comeback state of the United States today. A lot of great things going on. But as I said, we shouldn't be complacent and content. Let's not take it for granted. I'm an old guy. And more than once in the last 50 years in Michigan, we went through similar crises. When we would come out of those crises, we would talk about doing a lot of the tough stuff we've done. We didn't do it. But we'd talk about having the need to do it, and then we'd ignore that. Because we'd say, well, we can just keep on writing the good old thing. It didn't work. That's why we ended up in the mess of the last decade. We're doing it now. We're doing the tough things we should have done back in 82, we should have done in 74, we should have done in the 90s, 91, 92. We're doing them now. Let's not stop. Let's keep going. Let's use relentless positive action. Let's stay focused. Let's reinvent Michigan. Because we're at a unique moment in time where we're going to be able to say with great pride, we were there when Michigan hit bottom, but we were also part of the solution that got us on a path of 50 years or longer, long-term success. And when we see these young people, hopefully we can see them in the community, someday buying a house, someday having their own kids, and you'll look with pride and say, hey, I was part of that solution that made sure they had a chance to live in a great community like this and raise their kids here. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. We've got a lot to do. Let's get to work. Thank you. And then it's question time. We got the students. I think we have some business people.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice tie. You can give me some pointers on that.
My name is Kyle Nixon. I'm from Pine River High School. Governor Snyder, students understand that obtaining a great education is key to getting quality careers in the workforce. So why is our state government cutting needed funding to our schools?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you asked that because that's not an accurate statement. We've actually increased funding for K through 12 since I've been governor. If you go back to fiscal year 2010 and you compare it to the proposed budget that we're proposing for this next school year, there's actually an 11% increase over that time period in funding for K through 12. So if people give you the facts, it's not facts. The facts are, for state of Michigan dollars going into education, it's gone up by 11% in terms of comparing fiscal year 2010 to what we proposed in this next budget. We've also made increases for community colleges. The only area of education that we had a tough year was in the first year of the budget with the big deficit, was at the university level, and since then we've been increasing funding. And what I'll tell you is, the most important thing isn't talking about funding again. Government shouldn't just be a discussion on money. The thing we're really focused in on, that we want to have resources behind it, is student growth. What really matters is we need to create a better system. We've got great teachers, great administrators, but it's really this focus on making sure you and your colleagues get at least 1 year's education each and every year and grow and flourish and have those opportunities. And it shouldn't just be about the dollar amounts, but how we deliver that and what it takes to do that. So thanks for your question.